Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Businesswoman, entrepreneur, and supermodel Cindy Crawford founded Meaningful Beauty with world-renowned cosmetic specialist Dr. Sabah to share his age maintenance-focused skincare treatments and formulas. After using Meaningful Beauty for 8 weeks, 100% of women said their skin looks vibrant and bright. Tomorrow's gorgeous starts today. Go to meaningfulbeauty.com/beauty to receive 25% off and get the Targeted Treatment Duo gift set for free. meaningfulbeauty.com/beauty. That's meaningfulbeauty.com/beauty.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, he was one of hip-hop's biggest artists and producers, and his annual celebrity party was a can't-miss event. But authorities say what happened after the parties was a crime. We'll review Bad Rap, the Case Against Diddy from 2020 and ABC Audio. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband, love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Rip Current, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hey, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, this is Thursday's program.
Yes.
What's coming up on Monday's show?
Well, let me first off by telling you what's not going to be on Monday's show.
All right.
Laura Bricker
will
not be there because she's going on a little getaway with her son, and they are going where? Cocaine Island, Laura? Is that right?
We are going, Will and Lance and I are going to Puerto Rico to a little surfing village, and then we are, in fact, going to Cocaine Island. Apparently, they have a safe word that they have come up with if I start getting a little bit too out of control. And they want to extricate.
Nice.
It might be pineapple. They're going to be like, pineapple, pineapple, pineapple.
Pineapple, okay.
Pineapple.
That's what it sounded like she said.
Pineapple.
Yes. So, Kevin, we were talking about what's on Monday's show. What is on Monday's show?
Yeah, so on Monday's show, we will have with us Suzanne Rico.
Yay.
The host of The Man Who Calculated Death.
Yes, on my top 10
and
podcast
guest
list.
On Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club. She will be here to talk to you, Toby and I, about Good American Family.
Oh, so creepy.
That is the Natalia Grace dramatized series with Ellen Pompeo.
Yes.
And we're anticipating a good discussion.
It's going to be an interesting discussion for sure.
You know what no one will ask? Why now?
Because I won't be here.
Because he won't be here. Yes. Yeah.
You know what I will ask?
Mm-hmm.
Why is Ellen Pompeo making anything else when she is so freaking rich from Grey's Anatomy? I just wouldn't work. I would just do my twice a season drop-ins. And she does a ton of interviews talking about being rich from Grey's Anatomy because she negotiated that great deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this seems like this was a hard gig, I think, this one, right?
Yeah, I guess we can talk about whether this was a good idea to be the script that she did pick up.
All right. So Laura, I have a question for you.
Okay.
You're snacking on something pretty funny today. Do you want to just show it to the camera real quick?
What is that?
Yeah, I'm snacking on the Lind.
Oh my God, you've eaten so much of it since you started the show.
It's
it was
tiny.
like 6 inches tall.
It's a tiny bunny.
But it's got like the solid, is it the solid ears and then the hollow body?
Yeah, it's the hollow body, so it's not really that much.
It wasn't that tiny when you started eating it. It was
body's
tall.
what's left.
I know.
You ate
bottom
the solid ears.
Yeah, I ate the solid ears.
That's a lot. That's like it's like 25 Hershey's Kisses or something.
Before we taped, Laura pulled out this it looked like you just got an Easter basket. You pulled out this full size rabbit, unwrapped the top of it, and just bit off the freaking ears. Yeah, and it was like, and you're like, I didn't realize you were going to be solid.
Yeah,
quite the snack.
Yeah, and as our line editor Livy Burdett will attest to, most of the time, Laura forgets to mute her microphone when she goes into a snack.
The good news is it's very easy to duck down a mic.
It is, but someone's got to take the hit, and it's Livy. Thank you,
I'm
Livy.
sorry, Livy. I'll send you a bunny over there where you are in Spain.
Apparently you have a whole bunch of them from your Lint friend, Anne, right?
I do. I have a whole container of chocolate bunnies.
By the way, I enjoyed the newspaper feature you wrote about Anne. It was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. And Kevin, what are you holding?
You guys might remember we were talking about how we almost were not able to record because of the plumbing emergency.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm holding in my hands the bit of copper pipe that gave way. You could see right here, this seam right down the middle. Water was trickling out of that.
That's like all the pipes in our freaking house.
Yeah, I'm sure that almost all of our pipes are suffering from copper pipe cancer, which will have to be replaced. So right now, I think that Livy's got a challenge here to maybe edit out some noises in the background coming from Studio C, where we've got our two favorite plumbers are here, the guys who rescued us, and they're doing some additional work that we had put off, and also some other things. We're like, well, if they're knocking down the wall already, we need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'll try to put this up on TikTok so everybody could see exactly how horrible this pipe is.
Kevin's showing his pipe on TikTok.
Yeah,
Did you hear that?
He's holding it, showing it.
Holding my
Whipping
pipe.
It around.
You
literally are.
Usually I'm the dirty one. And so
now he's holding it with both hands.
He's holding it confidently.
It takes both hands because this is the heavy end.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, you got to be careful with it.
Speaking of the crime of the week in the last episode.
Yeah. Look at the size of how wide that is on the inside.
Wow, it's so thick.
It's so thick, this pipe. And I'm trying to see what's been inside it.
Maybe we don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
Nothing.
No. And I just realized this pipe has been here in the studio underneath my bench the whole time.
Yeah, as one does with their pipes. All right, Kevin.
Jesus.
Should we talk about the thing we're supposed to be talking about?
Yeah, we could do that.
All right, let's get that done. Leading off.
Actor Ashton Kutcher grabs onto a swing strung over the pool and Tarzans across it. Diddy is emceeing in a sea of white suits, dresses, linen, and sunglasses. Ashton is on the swing!
The celebrity event of the year was the White Party, where stars would gather at the East Hampton mansion of hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. But when most of the crowd went home, others would stay for what Combs called the Freak-Off, a drug-fueled sex party secretly filmed for the musicians' benefit.
Make some noise if you've been here before. Okay. And to all the kids have like an hour left. So get extra comfortable, kids, because after that, y'all gotta go. It's a wrap for y'all, because this thing turns into something that when y'all get older, y'all don't want to come to. Okay?
When his longtime girlfriend, the singer Cassie, sued him for rape, Diddy quickly settled the case. But details in the filings piqued the interest of authorities, who began to investigate whether his many private parties were consensual soirees or illegal sex trafficking.
The raid by federal agents spilled Diddy's criminal investigation into public view for the first time. And soon, what started as a trickle of allegations swelled into a tsunami no one could ignore.
From 2020 and ABC Audio comes Bad Rap, the Case Against Diddy. Host Brian Buckmire recounts how Combs went from hip-hop star to defendant. The 6 episodes is a prologue to the podcast plans for twice-a-week episodes once Combs goes on trial for sex trafficking, kidnapping, bribery, and arson. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Bad Rap. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Now, Toby, I've heard other podcasts that have done something like this, but this is a very organized pre-trial series, right? And then it's going to be covering the trial. What do you think about that concept?
I think it's pretty interesting, particularly having a lawyer be the host of it. Although I don't think they necessarily exploit that as much as they could have, but there is one point at which he talks about what he thinks this certain indictment is really sort of indicating, which is providing a roadmap for investigators to follow. But yeah, I mean, for somebody like, I'm not going to pay attention to the Diddy trial, I'll be quite honest. But if I was interested in following the Diddy trial.
To be clear, you don't pay attention to almost any trial. So
correct.
It's not just the Diddy trial.
Right. And I also, I don't know much about Diddy. So yeah, I think this is good. It gives good background. So if you start following the trial and you don't know much about his background or what the allegations are or whatever, this is probably a pretty good primer to get you set for watching the trial, which I guess is going to be on TV or something.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with you, Toby. I am familiar with Diddy. I'm a hip hop fan. I've been following his career since the 90s. And while these allegations didn't come as hugely surprising, there's been whispers about them for a while. He did very likely participate in a couple of murders and got away with it. I mean, I remember the shooting in the nightclub with J-Lo. I remember that very clearly. And it was very obvious that he was involved in that and that someone else took the hit for it. And it's just a wild story. And he's kind of a very, very strange persona. I also watched Making the Band, believe it or not. Kevin, I commented to you earlier today that I think this podcast has a Nafokian feel to it. I'm relating it to Leon Nafok and his very straightforward, this is what happened type podcast. Do you agree with me? Yes or no?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think it does have a little bit of a slow burn fiasco kind of feel. And I know everybody else has like opinions on this too. You know, those podcasts are like, you know, historical retellings and examinations of a high profile case told, you know, fairly straight, but very competently. I mean, I think what this doesn't have that those podcasts have is like those little known but important factoids. You know, those sort of different, like, little things that you didn't know that were actually kind of important. The people on the periphery, in addition to some of the people who are, like, really closely involved. That's what make those podcasts really kind of special on top of, like, a very solid telling. So in that way, it doesn't have that. But, you know, I think probably in the end, we might throw it in that same category.
I think we actually did have some interesting side voices. So I kind of disagree with you there. So, Laura, we hear in episode 5, this woman talking about how the music industry largely escaped the allegations that all came to light during the Me Too movement, and that the entertainment industry, obviously we had Harvey Weinstein, we had all these abusive producers and actors and so forth, and in the comedy world, people didn't come out unscathed, but the music industry seems to be the one part of the world of entertainment that has never had this kind of microscope on it, and Diddy is not alone in his behavior here. But what did you think of the allegations as you actually heard them, given especially now that there's so much evidence behind them?
Right. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing about it, the music industry. And I'm like, this is like Weinstein, but this is in a different context of people trying to get into a different segment of the entertainment industry. So when this all came out, and then you hear about Cassie and you hear about these videos, Cassie going down a hallway.
He runs up to Cassie as she bends to put her shoes on by the elevator. Diddy grabs her by the back of the head and throws her to the ground. He kicks her in the back and she just lies there, doesn't try to get up. He kicks her again, then starts to drag her back down the hall by her sleeve.
Those were the things that were in her lawsuit, but now you're hearing about them in the criminal context, and they're pretty blatant. You know, it's hard to explain away something that's on video like that. I can't imagine looking at that and being like, oh yeah, no, that was consensual. Oh yeah. Oh no, she deserved it. Oh no, that didn't happen. No, it's like one of those, like we think about like Me Too. Is this case now that, you know, it's going to trial and people are seeing how it's playing out, is that going to be the catalyst for others in the music industry that have been abused, have been exploited or whatever? Is that going to be sort of like the catalyst for other people to come forward now that it's getting to the point where it's at court and they're seeing, oh, there is some accountability happening here. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I think it's going to be really, really hard because these people are such kingmakers.
Right.
I mean, they're not just entertainers. They are kingmakers. They're gatekeepers. Everyone around them is a gatekeeper. Obviously, there's an allegation against Jay-Z that he's disputing and now he's suing over. I'm not assuming that it's true, but if it were true, he will crush that person. I mean, it's been demonstrated again and again and again that these rich people, they have reputation managers that, you know, work online. They work in the troll sphere. They work in all these places. I think one of the most interesting cases in entertainment right now is the Brad Pitt rehabilitation. So few people know what's in that FBI report about Brad Pitt, which you can read online if you want. Him choking Angelina Jolie, him being incredibly violent, incredibly drunk. And he's still BFFs with George Clooney, like showing up at all these places. And at the Cannes Film Festival, Angelina Jolie and he both had films. She was there and they avoided each other, and he gets so much, like, the glow around him just never ever stopped. And I don't know if this will spark anything. I mean, I just think it's incredibly hard to explain when you're not in that world how powerful these people actually are and how people around them really prop it up. I mean, Toby, this is the thing that I think about all the time. This enterprise, Diddy's enterprise of abusing people, like we hear about the parties where you have to drink when you first arrive and you don't know what's in it, but if you don't drink it, you're kicked out, right? How many people do you think is this just like not even a secret? It's just open right in front of their faces, know about it, and don't feel like they can or should do anything. Hundreds of people probably, right?
Yeah. I assume that it just gets kind of normalized in conversations and stuff. And, I don't know if to a certain extent people are like, hey, man, everybody knows what's happening there. So if you show up, that's what you get. I mean, I was thinking about, and again, I haven't followed this very closely, so I know zero details, but I think Kesha had made allegations against her producer. And again, it's like an interesting thing where, like, I don't know what that dude's name is. I assume he's probably fairly famous, but not as famous as she is. But she still doesn't get the benefit of the doubt in that situation. I mean,
no, and he's now working with Katy Perry again.
Was that in the New Yorker? Because I'm trying to figure out how you know anything about that.
I haven't the foggiest idea. I think osmosis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I don't know how much like the idea that the music industry for so long has been able to play by different rules than other artistic ventures, I mean, I think you go back to like bands behaving badly, like Led Zeppelin. You go back to Jerry Lee Lewis, who married his like 13-year-old cousin or something. I mean, I think there's almost sort of this expectation that musicians get some latitude. I mean, I think even like, I hate to say it, Kevin, but I think Billy Joel was hooking up with models who were much, much younger than him and possibly like, are they adults or not?
Do people think Billy Joel is a good person? That's a real question because I don't, I mean, we've seen him live. He doesn't telegraph even in person, like on stage, that he's a good person. Like he's drunk like all the time. I don't know. Kevin, were you under the impression that he's like a great guy?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
He doesn't come off.
But I mean, the Nylon Curtain is a great album. I mean, what can you?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly doesn't come off as being particularly outrageous or dangerous or anything. Compared to a lot of other people, and a lot of times I think it's kind of performative. But anyway, I think the music industry has some challenges that some of those other industries don't, just based on history.
Yeah. I mean, Toby, I just also kept thinking about the NFL, right? Like how many abusers have been caught on video and then come back to play in the NFL. And it's like you hear Chris Collinsworth or whatever just be like, oh, he had some distractions a couple years ago, but he really seems to have
he's turned it around.
Distractions,
that.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Colin Kaepernick like kneels and like he's banished forever.
For life, yeah. And you have men like absolutely like proven domestic violence, sexual assault, all that stuff, shooting people, as has also happened in the NFL. And it's a distraction, but they overcome it, right, Kevin?
They overcome it.
Yeah.
I don't know why am I supposed to be the Billy Joel apologist? I just kind of
I'm just curious because you're such a big fan,
Oh, well, it's fine. I can be a fan, but it doesn't mean I'm like. But the point I think Toby is making is that there's smoke around a lot of people, and then it just end up. Do you go and look for the fire, or? Oh no!
Just keep breathing in the smoke.
I was just going to say he's going to say he didn't start the fire. I did not mean to go there.
I'm not going to say a thing.
Yeah. So, Kevin, are you planning on watching the Diddy trial after listening to this podcast?
Well, I think those are federal charges. So if that's in federal court, there will be no televised coverage, right?
Probably.
If I'm
I don't know.
not mistaken.
You'll have those great cartoon sketches.
Oh, yes. The sketches.
I love them.
Sketches.
Always so attractive. People always look so good in their sketches.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the things about this podcast is that, it's like you said, it's a primer for coverage of the trial. Now, there have been a couple of podcasts that were planning to, would drop a series and then do like regular updates on a trial. That didn't happen in the season of Breakdown for the Trump season. Again, happy retirement, Bill Rankin. I think 74 seconds.
Are you referring to Fonnie Willis's unforced error in that case?
Yeah, well, in the end, it just, that season never happened. 74 seconds, which was on the Philando Castillo case. You remember we did that podcast many years ago. Yeah. They did that. So podcasting is usually like a form of either talk show or documentary, right? It really hasn't been used fully to the effect of like newscast as much. Maybe it's because of the time shift that people have like when they listen. So there's always sort of like this timely element. I mean, I think that, they're with ABC. They should be able to pull that off even if there's no audio because, I mean, people are interested in podcasts that follow trials like Karen Reed that you can get on Patreon.
That's right. I'm a newscaster on Patreon. Am I not, Kevin?
You are, for the last people that do not know.
A newscaster with a point of view, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get all sorts of exclusive podcasts at our Patreon, including Rebecca Lavoie's Readathon podcast for those who go to patreon.com/partners in crime media. You heard it in the first 1 second of this episode. Rebecca with special guests, sometimes myself, sometimes other podcasters.
Mel Barrett is going to be a regular special guest.
Talk about what the latest is. And Rebecca, as we go into week 2 of the podcast, or I should say of the trial.
Not week 2 of the podcast.
No, not week 2 of the podcast.
90 episodes of that podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are you going to be looking for?
Well, I'm going to continue to be watching the trial. I think everybody is anticipating the arrival of Jen McCabe on the stand. We don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that the defense is certainly laying the foundation for that cross-examination with almost every witness. So that's what I'm
Jen
waiting
McCabe
for.
is the witness who typed "house long to die in snow."
Maybe at 2:27 in the morning.
Maybe hours before the body was found. Or maybe it's a technical glitch. Depends on
And maybe
what
none
the
of
jury
that
says.
matters because he wasn't hit by a car.
That's true. Other great podcasts that you'll get there include the Crime Writers on After Show, where we extend our discussions on various things. Other podcasts include Marry With Podcast, our relationship advice show. Laura has an exclusive podcast called Leave It to Bricker, where she gets into all sorts of adventures. And Toby Ball has his Deep Dive Book Club. Toby, on the next Deep Dive, which you are recording on Monday, you have Barbara O'Brien, Shirley Lero, and Sarah D. Bunting, a really heavy hitter cast. What book are you talking about?
American Prison by Shane Bauer.
And we also have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
Well, Kevin, I was shopping for stuff for our deck this week. I always do a little refresher every year of
For the spring, yeah?
Yeah, and a couple things wear out, things get moldy, whatever. And right now I have this sort of like temporary sad umbrella in the table because the other one had a nest in it.
No.
I did clean it out, so it's still usable, but I just couldn't bear looking at it. Anyway, I went onto Amazon, and the patio umbrella situation on Amazon is pretty incredible price-wise. You can get like a really nice patio umbrella for like $40, like a 9-foot patio umbrella with crank and tilt and everything. So yeah, I highly recommend if you have deck or patio needs, something like an umbrella, and you go to a box store, even like Job Lot or whatever, if they're like $90, $100, $120, $40 on Amazon. That's the way I'd go.
Hey, another thing I suggest to people is you're talking about that, we need to do this. Wasps, if they're a problem, they're very territorial. So you know what you can do? You can set up a fake wasp or hornet's nest and put it near your deck or whatever, and the wasps will not build their nest near that territory.
I have another trick, though, that we use that works really well.
Don't say the peppermint thing. Because,
it works.
Yeah, but when they're already there. Keep them away from the beginning.
Yes, but if you spray...
Well, they're already at my house, so how do I get rid of them?
Go on Amazon, buy a decoy nest, and set it up so that the other wasps can see it, and they will think that, okay, we're gonna have a street rumble.
So they're gonna
leave.
leave.
We'll run away.
And Laura, keep a spray bottle handy with water and a few drops of mint essential oil. Wasps hate mint. I always spray down the curtains outside with it. I spray down the furniture with it, and it's a very effective wasp deterrent.
Okay.
Now, Toby, you also have a great list that people should check out. It's Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations. They're inspired by our listeners. What are this week's deep cut recommendations?
This week's for the kids.
This one's for the kids, everybody.
For the ladies and the kids.
No, it's probably not for the ladies.
Okay.
We're starting off with the Spider-Man Marvel Legends series 6-inch spider armor MK, whatever that is.
6-inch?
6-inch spider armor MK1 or I action figure toy includes 4 accessories. What are those 4 accessories, you ask? 2 alternate hands and 2 web FX. So that's the first one. The second one, which is even more confusing to me, Tamashii Nations Berserk Guts, in parentheses, Berserker Armor, and parentheses, Bandai Spirits SH Figwarts action figure.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Wow, every kid wants that.
Wants a Berserker.
I know.
Berserker
Yeah.
armor, I guess, from Figwarts.
That sounds like
Hey,
one
one
of those.
our beloved listeners ordered that for
I
their
know,
kid.
and we honestly don't know what it is.
But there's all this stuff. Like I was looking at like Yu-Gi-Oh, TCG, Blue Eyes, White Dragon booster box. That seems a little weird, but my kid was collecting Yu-Gi-Oh stuff back in the day. It's just hard to know.
Yeah, it's not weird. It's just not your thing, right? It's not for you.
I'm not up with the kids'
it.
trends.
Me neither. Me neither.
You can help us by shopping first at Amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. You don't even have to buy anything there because it still helps us. It doesn't cost you another nickel. We earn commissions on qualified purchases.
All right, Kevin. Before we end the business section, do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Dana Inskeep and Emily Plummer. Bless you.
Dana and Emily. I know that those names are familiar to
Those
me
some
for
long-time
sure.
friends of the show. Yep.
Thank you so much for supporting us for all this time. We appreciate you beyond what you could possibly know. Everybody who supports us on Patreon, it's how we are able to do this job for so many years, is that our listeners support us. Without you, we couldn't be doing this. Honestly, that is honestly the truth. So thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who supports us there. And thanks to those of you who are considering it. I would try it if I were you. All right, Kevin.
We couldn't pay for our plumber.
Does thus end the business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
Right now.
So, Kevin.
Yes.
Who's the sponsor for this episode of Crime Writers On?
Oh, we welcome a new sponsor. It's Rula Health.
Ooh.
Finding the right mental health care should be simple and affordable, but for many, it is not. You got long wait times and high costs, and so that means like finding the right provider, it can really make getting help feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so that's where Rula comes in. Rula connects you with in-network licensed therapists that accept most major insurance, right? So it has been a very trying time for many people.
Yes.
And I always say, you don't maybe necessarily want to take everything that you're feeling
and put it on Facebook in a post?
Yeah, or tell your sister who's going to go because she might be the problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like you really want to talk to a professional, find somebody that you're comfortable with. That's where Rula comes in. They partner with a network of over 10,000 therapists and psychiatrists nationwide, enabling you to find your personalized solution and the right therapist for you based on your needs, preferences, and state requirements. So every therapist is carefully vetted, so you are in expert hands. And for the in-network covered care for most major insurances, you pay for as little as $15 per session.
Wow. So join the thousands who have already turned to Rula for support on their journey to better mental health and well-being. Getting started is so easy. Just visit rula.com/CWO
CWO
today. That's RULA.com/CWO
CWO
to connect with a licensed therapist who truly cares. Your mental health matters. Individual costs depend on your insurance and deductible. Kevin.
Yes, Rebecca.
Who's the next sponsor for this program?
Okay, we're brought to you by our friends at Hello Fresh.
Hello Fresh.
Hola Fresco. That's what you used to say all the time.
I know, Hola Fresco.
Yeah, so fresh air, sunshine, and good food. That is what spring is all about. You just opened up the deck here. We got that little picnic place to sit. Need to have
You mean my sophisticated outdoor table, Kevin?
Yeah. So we need to make some stuff quick. Bring it right out there. HelloFresh makes it easy for those home-cooked meals. They take no time at all.
Plated up beautifully. They've got great recipes like pasta primavera, chicken Dijon, and pecan-crusted trout. Yum.
As well as over 100 seasonal snacks, sides, and treats. Well, the final kid, we kicked him out.
Yes. We're empty nesters now.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really kick him out, but like it was time to go. And
He moved across town.
So you know what that means? An adjustment to the meal plan, which was so very easy to do at HelloFresh. Plus, they are also able to get us, items that we can take a little more time to make, but on the nights when we're recording,
boom, nice meal.
Nice meal.
Feel great with meals that fit your spring schedule and make the season even more delicious. Go to HelloFresh.com/CWO10FM.
CWO10FM.
Right now to get 10 free meals.
10 free meals.
With a free item for life. That's HelloFresh.com/CWO10FM. One free item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Kevin, who's the next sponsor for this program?
Oh, we're brought to you by our friends at Quince.
My best friends at Quince, you mean?
Yeah, look, we've been talking about sweaters, but now as the temperatures climb, it's easy to fall into the same old routine. Those familiar tank tops, worn-in shorts, worn-out shorts. the usual lineup, but Quince offers an effortless upgrade, elevated, easy prices that instantly refine the everyday uniform without the extra effort. So Quince is able to provide at great prices, couture, items that look great when you're out walking around. But Rebecca, you like the stuff that Quince offers that nobody gets to see.
That's right. Kevin, I just got some underwear from Quince, and it is rad. And it was so inexpensive. It was like a pack of underwear for like a really low price. I also did order a linen shirt, by the way. But the underwear is spectacular. It's got 5-star reviews for a reason. I endorse it personally.
Yeah, but don't forget, you still can get great things for the summer, like European linen shorts and dresses.
And shirts.
$30. Italian leather platform sandals.
Nice.
And so much more. And they cut out the middleman so they can pass the savings on to you.
Hell yeah. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crime. So, Laura, do you think this case, the Diddy case, would have quite so much traction if during the federal raids they hadn't found more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which they say were from Costco, and Costco vehemently denies having sold?
I don't know if they get traction, but certainly lubrication.
Yeah. But do you think these like more lascivious details are one of the reasons why people are following this?
Yeah. So I remember when this happened, and I remember my son going, "Mom, why'd they have the baby oil? Was that so that the police would fall in the stairs and they could escape?" And I was like, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, how sweet.
Like on Home Alone?
Yeah, it was a trap for the police so they would fall like cartoon characters. But I remember, it's like, think about like when you're like going down the road and like you see something like an accident and you look and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? That you can't look away from. I think that was the baby oil thing. Like that's the first thing. As soon as I heard we were listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh, I hope they talk about the baby oil.
What took social media by storm was the 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Diddy's lawyer then says that the baby oil came from Costco, and then Costco makes a statement and says, we don't sell baby oil. It's like Costco is like, keep me out of this.
They're seizing guns, AR-15s with like serial numbers that have been filed off. And you're like, oh, why was he keeping the guns in his bedroom? Like, what was happening? And, you know, you're hearing about like the electronic devices that have been taken and that he might have been videotaping some of this stuff. And you're like, oh my goodness. So it's like those type of details that are just so like, if you're nosy like I am, you want to know what's on those videos. You want to know what's on those phones. You want to know why he had the guns. You want to know why he had the baby oil.
We know why he had the baby oil.
We know why he had baby oil. But I'm just saying, like, you hear these things, and if you're a certain personality, it's hard to turn away. And I think that for me, a lot of this podcast was kind of dry, like historical. And I'm like, I'm waiting for the trial when we can hear more about the crazy shit they found and how that led this to move forward in the justice system.
You know, Toby, one thing that I often think about, and it's something that I thought about actually listening to in an episode featuring your favorite person, Kevin, Billy Joel, on Alec Baldwin's podcast, Here's the Thing, that we talked about on Celebrity Podcast, that he talked about having all of these failed attempts at becoming a successful musician, like record companies dropping him left, right. And then finally, and I'm like, if he were a woman, like he'd gotten signed once and then that would have been that, right? I think about Diddy. He's responsible for the death of 9 people. In 1991, he did this poorly organized event at City College where almost 30 people were injured and 9 people died and nothing happened to him.
The gym had a 2,700 person capacity, but almost 5,000 people showed up. As the crowd rushed to get in, 29 people were injured and 9 died in a stampede. One headline from that day read, "The Carnage at City College."
What were your thoughts when you were either hearing or remembering that story through the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird in that it's not like black men in our society usually get passes on stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it is kind of strange. I mean, I wonder if that kind of contributed to his sense of invulnerability or being able to get away with things that other people can't. But it also kind of speaks to his, I guess, persistence and self-confidence or whatever. I mean, it's a little hard to understand that when you start off that way. So yeah, I mean, I that feels to me like sort of a formation of a sense of untouchability at the beginning that probably just grew and grew as his notoriety and wealth and entourage and all that stuff grew. I just kind of assume he must have felt untouchable. He was going to his son's college football coach and threatening him. I mean, it's just
not threatening,
hitting him with a kettlebell.
Yeah. I just assume that any college football coach is going to be able to break Diddy in half, but it does speak to a self-regard that's sort of beyond like what most people kind of feel about themselves.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch Making the Band, you saw that on full display. So it's like kind of unsurprising. But Kevin, Diddy has been called rap's Gatsby for many years. And you have a note in here about that theme and him sort of trying to personify, but instead of pursuing romance, pursuing power. Like that's his thing. What do you think about this Gatsby comparison?
Yeah, I didn't know they called him that, but it just sort of like really rang true. I mean, literally having a huge party on the Hamptons. He wasn't in West Egg, but, it may as well have been. He says, that the white parties were, everybody comes dressed in white. And that it was like breaking down racial barriers and age barriers and but I just really feel it's just like, it just looked good, right? It just looked fancy, very photogenic, and like it made this party special, which, okay, all on him. But, like when you think of the themes of The Great Gatsby, I mean, like they play out, a lot of them play out here in real life too. So the only difference is
there's no car explosions. Well, there actually is a car explosion.
There is.
You're right.
There is, right? But I mean, Gatsby and Jay didn't have freak-offs with Daisy. So, it does. You can only stretch it so far.
Yeah. What did you think about hearing that story about him admitting, and this is something, of course, part of the Diddy lore, aside from the fact that he very likely actually participated in the murder of Tupac Shakur and so forth, the fact that he had this guy's car blown up.
That's cold-blooded.
Yeah?
That's cold-blooded. And because it was Cassie, who revealed that. And there was on a different podcast, I think it was Charlamagne the God is what they said, they're talking about, that came out, and what?
Kid Cudi confirmed it?
That the car blew up.
That really happens in real life? People be blowing up cars?
Kid Cudi didn't say Diddy did it. He just said it blew up.
Yeah, he said the car blew up in his driveway. Well, that's a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely coincidental.
So that's, again, another just interesting detail that speaks to somebody's feeling that they are invincible, that they can do this with impunity.
Right. I mean, I'm just going to say one thing, and I'm sorry if there are any billionaires listening to this podcast. I doubt there are, but
we have a billionaire Patreon level.
I was about to say, I hope they're contributing to our Patreon if they are.
Except for a couple of ex-wives of well-known billionaires, right? And except for the rare occasion where you hear billionaires speak out against the bad behavior of other billionaires, which is very rare. Really rich people seem to behave as if they don't exist in a different world than we do. And I don't think it's just the music industry. I don't think it's just celebrity. It's just like a thing about being rich. You just feel like you live in a different planet and you behave like you live in a different planet. And that's to me what so much of this is about, especially hearing about the parties and all the other very rich, very well-known people who would show up. It's a gathering of the gods, right? I mean, that's probably how they sort of saw it. And, Laura, the Weinstein comparison, I think, is really apt in this case because the one thing that we hear about Cassie, and I'm sure she's not alone in this, is that he signed her and signed this 11-album deal with her. And then she never was able to make her second album. And she was clearly thought that someday, or at least was telegraphing that someday this thing would actually come out and going on talk shows and stuff talking about it. But he was holding this over her. I mean, that's what it seemed like to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like Weinstein, you can have a part in this whatever movie if you do X, Y, and Z for me. Gross. But yeah, it's the same thing. And it's that sort of coercive control. And that, again, like you were saying before, being in the music industry and wanting to make it and being like, well, this is just the cost of doing business. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be. And there's nothing I can do to change it because, misogyny and culture and protection of people like this. But it's like you were saying, I'm thinking about the people that they name drop that are going to these ridiculous white parties where Diddy's arriving on a helicopter holding a copy of the Declaration of Independence. And you've got Beyonce and Martha Stewart and Al Sharpton. And you've got all these people at his parties. And it's there's that culture of, well, this is just how it is because we're rich.
Right. So, Toby, this is a difficult case to talk about on a couple of different levels. And I'm so glad that you made a note about this because I really wanted to talk about it. There has been a lot of, I'll just say it, in the coverage of this, like some racist glee about the fact that Diddy is a thug, bad guy. I'm using words that I've actually seen on news coverage, chyrons, and on Twitter and so forth. And that actually is a very complicated thing that when it comes to talking about this case, through a more neutral law enforcement or justice lens, right? Because there are some dynamics here. There are some dynamics here that get actually discussed on the podcast, which I thought was one of the strongest parts of the podcast. What did you think about that conversation that we heard?
Yeah, I thought it was the strongest part of the podcast, to be honest. And it didn't go on for too long, but I think the idea was essentially that Diddy in particular and some others weren't necessarily getting a pass, but people were uncomfortable talking about what they'd done because it seemed to dovetail with these sort of racist stereotypes about black men. And so that it felt as though talking about it, especially with such a prominent black man, that you were somehow, advancing or perpetuating or whatever this racist stereotype. But it does sort of make it hard to talk about the truth of the matter.
Similar to Bill Cosby, right?
Yeah, I think similar to Bill Cosby. I can't think of...
Paragon of so-called black excellence. I mean, as I'm using his words, I mean, there is black excellence, obviously, but he set himself up as a paragon of black excellence. And, they both donated significant amounts of money to historically black colleges and universities. They were very open about criticizing other people for how they did or didn't live up to the excellence. I mean, there are some parallels here.
Yeah, and I think it's why, not for everybody, but why it's easier for some people to talk about like Harvey Weinstein, right, than it is about Diddy. Because again, it's like there's just a history of sort of racist views of black men. Being
predatory, like that's a big one, obviously.
Yeah, being predatory, sexually aggressive, whatever, that you don't want to advance those things. And in trying not to do that, sometimes it makes it hard to talk about individuals who actually are predatory. So I thought that was an interesting sort of nuance to it. And I think it makes it a little hard to talk about it in our conversation too at times. So I thought that was really good. I'm glad they had that in there.
What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, another idea I thought about was that, with Harvey Weinstein, there were a lot of moviegoers that didn't know who Harvey Weinstein was.
Right.
The Weinstein company, within the industry, he had the reputation, and what he did was horrible. And in addition to that, he was a predator and had, a pattern of doing this, but a pattern of doing this to individuals, right? A lot of people know who Diddy was, right? And were fans of his music. And then there's just something about the spectacle of what this freak-off probably was, involving all these different people, and then the sex trafficking through it, and it's like, well, was this like some sensual orgy, or...
It sounds like freak-off sometimes just happened in private, too. It wasn't just at the parties.
Yeah, so...
That's just a name he gave to sexual assault.
But I wanted to make the point that on Monday, we talked about sort of the scope of that sex trafficking enterprise and the cult part of it. And we thought it was, compared to other things, it was pretty small. And this one just seems to capture a different part of the imagination. And any celebrity crime, especially if it involves sex, is just going to titillate and draw a lot of public attention.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Instacart is here to keep you on the couch this basketball season. With pre-game rituals and post-game interviews, it's hard to find time for everything else. Let Instacart handle your game day snacks or weekly restocks with delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Because it's bad luck to be hungry on game day. Download the Instacart app today and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply for 3 orders in 14 days. Excludes restaurants.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Bad Rap, the Case Against Diddy from 2020 and ABC Audio. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for this podcast?
I'm going to go mild thumbs up on this podcast. I think it's interesting in the way that the part that we've listened to so far is actually kind of more of a historical look at Diddy, his role in the industry, some of the civil cases that were brought out before the criminal case, and kind of how we got to where we are now with him before his criminal trial starts. So I'm actually more interested to listen to the criminal trial coverage. I thought the host was interesting. He was somebody who's been a defense attorney. I appreciated listening to his very relatable stories as somebody who works in that field, into going into jails that were not the greatest environments in the hierarchy of the jail world. But overall, for me, I felt like the reason I'm not like a full thumbs up is just that the historical part was just, it was okay. It was like, I guess if I was really into like hip hop, I probably would have been more interested in that part. I'm more interested in the actual criminal case now and the court portion of this. But definitely the songs. I'm like, I don't know how much they paid for the songs that they used. Every time one came on, I'm like, oh my God, they're paying money to play these songs.
So much music in this podcast.
ABC,
so much music. Very nostalgic for me because a lot of these songs came out in like my late high school, like through my college era. So I can remember exactly where I was. But yeah, I mean, I think we've heard about these type of stories in other areas of entertainment, celebrity world. So it was interesting to hear something in the music world, which is something we haven't heard to date. So mild thumbs up.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Bad Rap, the Case Against Diddy?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear Laura talk about when, Diddy and a lot of this music came out, because I think a lot of this stuff happened when I was like right out of college. So it was sort of pre-streaming, but I also wasn't like hanging out in areas where people were just like listening to tunes all the time because I was working.
You weren't hanging out in frat parties.
So, so I thought this was pretty good. The weight they gave to different things that happened in his life wouldn't necessarily been the way I would have done it. But I thought for the most part, it was pretty interesting. There is this weird like Chekhov's Ashton Kutcher where they start the thing off with like this thing about like Ashton Kutcher's at this party and he's swinging across the pool like Tarzan on a rope. I was like, where's this leading? Like, what's going to happen? And then you just never find out. I guess that was just like a detail that was just irresistible.
He was wearing white, Toby.
He was wearing white. And, if he dropped into the pool, who knows? So anyway, yeah, I give this a thumbs up. It's not boring. And I would guess that if you are like sort of pretty versed in all things Diddy, you may listen to this and be like, I knew all this stuff before. But for somebody like me who just kind of knew who he was and sort of knew like that he dated J-Lo and was in some scrapes with a lot different times, it kind of gives a fuller picture. And I had no idea he was worth like close to $1 billion. Like that was just not on my radar at all. So anyway, thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm going mild thumbs up on this. I mean, it's pretty solid. It's not flashy. It's really more like a comprehensive news series to set up the coverage for the trial, as we said. A great primer on the case. I'm actually kind of surprised about the things that they didn't include. I mean, when you consider that the resources are coming from ABC and Good Morning America in 2020, I thought they would have probably had access to people who are a little closer to it. They have a lot of other reporters and social commentators, and their reflections are important. But as far as like how close they got to the investigation or into some of these different things, I thought that while they had some, that they would have more to really sort of bring this to light. And for whatever reason, they didn't. But it's still a good podcast, so I'm a mild thumbs up.
I'm a thumbs up for this podcast. I super liked it. I mean, it was interesting to me to get some insight into Diddy also as a music figure. I mean, Mo Money, Mo Problems is one of the best hip hop songs of all time, the Notorious B.I.G. song. And Diddy, of course, has a verse on it. Absolutely the weakest verse on the track. I don't think anybody would deny that. But the fact that he sort of inserted himself into all these people's careers. And to answer your Ashton Kutcher question, Toby, Ashton Kutcher is really being examined for his very close relationship with Diddy, especially since he founded an anti-sex trafficking nonprofit. And Ashton Kutcher also supported Danny Masterson during his rape allegations. He and Mila Kunis got a lot of criticism for writing him character reference letters. And so there's a lot of complicated stuff here, but they've been really close friends. So I think he's had a little bit of an eye on him since this happened. Anyway, I really like these historical, like This Is What Happened podcast told well. I love that a lawyer is the host of this podcast, because then he's able to bring some insight even into the jail that Diddy's being kept at. He's like, oh, I've been in there a lot. And he sort of like describes the vibe there and stuff. And, we get little details like how Diddy is able to monitor his social media from prison. He wanted to know how many views and likes one of his Instagram posts got. And there's just like some nice beat drops, not to use a hip hop term, but I am about power, about influence, about abuse. And it's just, I think it's spaced out well. And it actually has made me a lot more interested in the trial than I was before. So thumbs up for me for Bad Rap, the Case Against Diddy. And I just want to underline the use of music in this podcast is tremendous. We've listened to other podcasts about the music industry where they have not been able to include music as like freely as they have in this show. And I found myself saying like, that's kind of what partially made it for me too. It wasn't just showing, it was also us hearing it. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
We do have a cat of the week this week, and it's my little cat, Zelda.
Yay!
Zelda went on a walkabout. And finally, 6 days later, returned home. And you can hear all the ins and outs of my own cat detective case in Leave It to Bricker. But it was my neighbors this morning saw me half dressed running around my house in the finale of Zelda Coming Home. So I am she's my little skittish cat. She's the one I've had the longest, former feral who was not adopted until later. She was brought in when she was older, and she's never really gotten over being feral. But we love her just the same. I'm
sure coyotes would love her too, so it's lucky she came home.
Well, again, people think cats run far. They don't. They're usually hiding like so close, but there are no coyotes in my neighborhood, only owls, which I heard the other night, and I thought, oh my God, if I have an owl episode, I don't even know what I'm going to say at this point. So welcome home, little Zelda. I'm glad she got home just in time for me to leave on vacation. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. So she is definitely cat of the week this week.
All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you and say hi and congratulate you on the return of your beloved pet, how can they find you online?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
What about you, Toby? How can you be found online?
At ToyBallNH on Blue Sky.
How about you, Kevin?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
You can find me everywhere at Reb Lavoie. Instagram, X, YouTube, Blue Sky, and TikTok is where you'll find Crime Writers On. But I encourage you mostly to join our amazing community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook group. Get all the stuff we make on Patreon at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the really wonderful Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also store 1,000 bottles, at least, I think, Kevin, of baby oil, right?
99 bottles of
On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
Take one down, pass it around. Done.
Make a note to myself, Rebecca Lavoie, fact check that before you leave it in the show. Because otherwise it just sounds like you're doing pigeon on the show, Kevin.
And then you just...